In the following footage, a Reddit user known as Melodic District 264 captures a series of events in what appears to be a service corridor or a storage section of an apartment complex. According to the uploader, he only began recording after hearing a distinct, violent sound while his back was turned, the sound of a heavy, yellow cable being smacked against the wall by an unseen force. He decided to investigate the source of the noise, venturing into the hallway with his phone camera ready. What he captures is a manifestation of movement that is difficult to explain through natural drafts or structural settling. Take a look.
Nigga, something just smacked the fuck. Yo, nigga, what I say, nigga? I mean, I ain't that scared, but no mama is.
The footage shows a yellow cable suddenly tensioned and whipped against the wall with enough force to create an audible crack. In an area like this, one might look for a logical explanation, such as a localized gust of wind, but the way the cable is pulled back before the snap suggests a deliberate physical grip. Furthermore, as the camera pans toward the shadows at the end of the corridor, the atmosphere feels heavy, as if the camera is capturing a residual energy left behind in the bowels of the building. The uploader was so disturbed by the physical nature of this manifestation that he shared the footage seeking an explanation for the escalating activity. While skeptics might suggest a hidden line or a snag in the building's infrastructure, the speed and isolation of the movement remain baffling. Is it possible that the utility areas of buildings, often neglected and empty, can play host to this kind of unsettling activity? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In December of 2025, Daisy Summer shared a series of distress calls from her home. According to Daisy, the atmosphere in her house had shifted significantly, characterized by peculiar sounds echoing through the halls during the late night hours. The following footage captures her attempt to document the anomaly after a particularly unsettling encounter while she was getting ready for work. Her distress is palpable as she recounts seeing something in her bathroom that defied logic. Keep your eyes on the shadow extending from behind the bathroom door.
Holy shit, I was just getting ready for work and I freaking saw something in my bathroom that scared the freaking shit out of me. I don't know what it was, but it looked like a ghost. Like literally, I think I just saw a ghost. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of my house. I'm so scared. It was like right there where those shadows are. Those are shadows from the towel right there. But there was like a shadow right there where those other shadows are. And it looked like a person. It looked like a ghost. Like right there. Oh shit. Holy fuck! Ah!
You can see a dark, elongated mass is visible near the floor, seemingly separate from the natural shadows cast by the surrounding furniture. While some viewers initially suggested it was merely a trick of the light, the escalation occurs toward the very end of the clip. Just as she pans away, a dark protrusion, resembling a head or a limb, briefly extends from behind the doorframe into the hallway before she bolts in terror. The movement is fluid and lacks the jagged quality of a digital artifact or a camera glitch. In the realm of paranormal research, this behavior is often associated with shadow people, entities that are frequently reported as peeking from corners or lurking in the periphery of vision. Many researchers believe these manifestations are not just residual hauntings, but sentient entities that feed off of high-frequency human emotions, specifically fear and anxiety. By peeking out and then retreating, the entity may be deliberately testing Daisy, gauging her reaction to maximize the emotional output it can draw from her. Some viewers in the comments suggested that Daisy's sheer terror might actually be strengthening the entity's presence. One user suggested that instead of fleeing, she should have met the anomaly with anger or annoyance, theorizing that by removing the food source of fear, the entity would lose its ability to manifest physically. What do you think? Was this a temporary overlap of dimensions, or a predatory entity thriving on the atmosphere of a frightened household? This next clip explores the thin line between grief and the supernatural, where a house once filled with life suddenly feels hollow. In late 2024, Tonya Richardson began documenting what she believes is the residual energy of her beloved Maltese, Frenchie, who had passed away 5 months prior. Tonya explains that Frenchie had a very specific habit. She loved to burrow under the blankets and playfully chase Tonya's feet. What began as a memory soon manifested as a physical occurrence that Tonya captures in real time. The setting is her quiet bedroom, where the blankets begin to shift in a manner that is uncannily familiar. Take a look.
Y'all see that? My feet are literally right here. My blanket will just randomly move like that. That is so weird. Stop! Y'all, my hair standing on my arms because that's creepy. It does this about the same time every morning. So I'm not sure what it is trying to tell me something, but it's creepy.
The movement captured is both fluid and localized. You can see the duvet bunching and sliding as if a small weight is pressing against it from underneath. While a draft or a mechanical fan might cause a light ripple, this particular motion has a distinct hopping quality. The blanket doesn't just flutter, it appears to be nudged by a deliberate physical force. It's an unsettling sight, yet Tonya speaks to the empty space with a sense of comfort, convinced that Frenchie has returned to her favorite spot. However, as the days passed, the activity didn't just remain a comfort, it became more frequent and intense. Skeptics often point to simple explanations like hidden pets or household fans, but Tonya was determined to rule out any logical interference. To provide context for the escalation, she decided to pull back the veil and show exactly what or what isn't behind the movement.
My baby come to see me again. Frenchie, what you doing? What you doing? Are you gonna play tonight? Are you gonna play? There you are. Hello. Hello. What you doing? What you doing, baby? You trying to find the right spot? Just not finding the right spot, huh? Oh, look. Nothing under the bed. Look. Nothing under the sheets. Nothing there. Nothing there.
The most baffling part of this footage occurs when Tonya lifts the heavy comforter. As she clears the area, the movement stops instantly, and the space beneath the sheets is completely empty. She even goes as far as to show the area under the bed, proving there are no other pets or hidden devices that could be tethered to the fabric. The ghostly weight seems to vanish the moment it's observed directly, a pattern often noted in poltergeist-style manifestations where an entity reacts to direct human focus. In the paranormal community, some believe these fur baby hauntings are beautiful signs of a bond that transcends death. Others, however, take a more cautious approach. There is a theory that certain opportunistic entities can mimic the behaviors of a lost loved one or pet to gain trust and lower a person's spiritual guard. By imitating the kangaroo jumping style Frenchie was known for, an anomaly could potentially root itself in the home by feeding off the residents' grief and longing. Whether this is a heartwarming visit from a loyal companion or a more deceptive manifestation remains a topic of heavy debate among viewers. Some find the footage profoundly moving, while others feel an instinctual dread at the sight of the empty sheets shifting on their own. I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. This next clip highlights just how quickly a familiar space can turn hostile. In January of 2026, Perry and her roommate were at home alone when they were startled by a series of inexplicable sounds. The atmosphere within the apartment shifted from relaxed to high alert in a matter of seconds, as the duo began to suspect they weren't as alone as they thought. The footage captures their immediate reaction, and the sheer urgency in their body language is undeniable. Take a look.
I'm recording. Wait. Do you hear that? Can you check the security footage? Oh my god. Oh, what is it?
The panic is palpable as they move through the apartment, whispering and checking corners. Rather than risk exiting through the front door, where the sounds seemed to originate, the two roommates were so convinced of an intruder that they opted to flee through a window instead. However, the mystery only deepened when they later reviewed their security footage. A motion-sensing camera pointed at the kitchen began to track an invisible presence. The software identifies a person in the empty space just above a robot vacuum cleaner, tracking the anomaly as it moves across the floor. Yet nothing is visible to the human eye. The escalation continued throughout the night, with the roommates capturing further evidence that suggests something far more complex than a simple intruder. In this follow-up, the camera captures the heavy front door mysteriously unlatching and swinging open of its own accord. There is no visible hand on the handle, and the roommates are nowhere near the entrance. In the paranormal world, this kind of activity is often categorized as a skinwalker manifestation or a highly active poltergeist, particularly when senses are triggered by empty space. Some viewers pointed out that the way the sensor tracked the movement above the vacuum suggests an entity with a distinct height and mass, even if it remains shrouded from the light spectrum. While skeptics might suggest a draft or a mechanical failure in the door latch, the combination of the roommate's genuine fear and the camera's technical detection of a person makes this case particularly baffling. Could there be something dwelling within the walls of the apartment, or perhaps a transient entity that followed one of them home? If your security system alerted you to a person in an empty room, would you stay to see if it manifested, or would you be the first one out the window? This next clip takes us inside a veterinary hospital, a place often charged with high stakes and deep emotional transitions. In late 2025, a veterinary professional named Renee shared footage that has left many in the medical community questioning what happens in these clinics after hours. Renee explains that while staying late to care for a sick colleague's pet and a puppy battling parvovirus, she and her co-worker, Tessia, were interrupted by a sound that simply didn't belong. The atmosphere in the treatment room becomes tense as a phantom vocalization echoes through the sterile environment. Take a look.
That's weird. Where is that coming from? It don't sound like it's coming from. Okay, so you still want to do banana bag, 15 mils an hour, head of starch, 4 mils an hour. It's coming from over this way. Alright. Medication, veterinizole, 15 mils BID, IV. Wait, is it scarlet? Wait. I cleansed it off before getting meds. Is somebody trying to talk up there? What's coming from up there? They may have done that when they switched the bag. Is it the new bag? No. Alright, who's gonna get it? Help me. It's in the lobby. It's coming from the lobby. No, it's not. Where is that? It's not in here. What is that? What, phantom dolls? That's fucking weird. Is it Charles? You heard that, right? We all heard that. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. What did you hear? A dog keeps yapping. Is it Dakota? No. Look at coming from over here. Why don't you look in the front porch and make sure I didn't dump one or throw one in the pen outside or something? I didn't hear anything. You're not hearing that. Maria has heard it. I didn't hear it. No. You heard it, right? I heard it. I didn't hear it. It sounds like it's coming from this side. You can't hear it either, though, right? No. Look at that fence out there. It makes you somebody throw one in the fence. I heard nothing. I was like, what are y'all talking about? Yeah, that's a brand new bag. That's fucking bizarre. Yeah. That's I haven't heard it. I still haven't heard it. All three of us heard it. And it was coming from that. It sounded like it was in that room or something. Like it sounded like it was like right behind the board. We're gonna play that back. I didn't even hear anything. Can you play it like specifically in those rooms or anything?
As you can hear, a distinct, mournful canine cry fills the room. Renee notes that there were only 4 animals present at the time: a cat, an elderly Great Dane, the sick puppy, and an old healer. None of them were vocalizing, yet the sound is clear and persistent. In paranormal research, hospitals and clinics are often cited as hotspots for residual energy, places where intense life and death moments leave a permanent echo. Some believe this could be the spirit of a recently euthanized pet, perhaps still seeking comfort in a familiar setting. However, the activity at this hospital isn't limited to just sound. Renee later shared surveillance footage from the kennel area that suggests a much more physical presence. In this chilling follow-up, watch the latch of one of the cages closely. Without any visible interference, the metal lever is seen rising on its own. When the door doesn't swing open immediately, it appears to be pulled outward by an unseen force, allowing the animal inside to potentially wander out. There are no shadows, no reflections of people in the room, and no mechanical failures that would explain a multi-step process like unlatching and then pulling a door. This level of physical manipulation often points to an intelligent haunting, an entity capable of interacting with its environment to achieve a specific goal. While skeptics might suggest a loose latch or a vibration from the building, the deliberate nature of the opening is hard to dismiss. Is it possible that the bond between humans and animals is so strong that even in death, these patients stay behind to navigate the only place that tried to save them? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. If you were working a night shift and heard a phantom cry from an empty kennel, would you shrug it off as a residual echo, or would you start looking for a new clinic? In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying example of a child interacting with something that an adult is completely blind to. A mother is just casually filming her little boy, Jensen, while he lines up his toy cars on the living room floor. It's a completely innocent, quiet moment, right up until a sudden noise echoes from the other side of the room. What makes this video so chilling isn't the sound itself, but Jensen's immediate, visceral reaction to it. According to his mum, he is not typically a cuddly or clingy kid, but the absolute second this happens, his survival instincts completely take over. Watch what happens when his mum starts asking him very specific questions about exactly what he is looking at.
What? It's okay. Do you see someone?
Yes.
Who do you see?
Da.
Who is it?
Daddy.
You see someone over there? What are they doing? That's what they're doing?
Yes.
Are they scary? Are they nice? Like, do you want to go play with them? They're not there no more?
Yes.
They are? What are they doing? Is there still someone over there by your toys?
Daddy.
Is it a man? Or is it a lady?
Daddy.
A lady? It's a woman? Do you know her name?
Da.
What's her name?
That's true.
Oh, she's in the kitchen now? Oh,
It's high.
she's up high?
Yes. Da. Oh. Da. Oh.
What?
Daddy.
What is it?
Da.
You tell me, I don't see anything.
Oh. Da.
You keep pointing by your toys. Is there someone by your toys?
Oh, shit.
You keep pointing to the chair.
Oh.
Is there someone in the chair?
Yes.
Can you point to where you see someone? Where are they?
Da.
They're right there. What are they doing?
Da. I see. Da.
The chair?
Da.
Over by your toys?
Yes.
Well, are they gone now? Did they go bye-bye?
Da.
Right there?
Yes, I see.
They're by the chair.
Yes.
Can you wave to them if you see them?
Da. Da, got it. Mommy.
Yeah?
Da. I see.
You see them?
I see.
Is it boy or girl?
Good.
A girl?
Da. Go.
You see the girl?
Oh.
Can you ask her name? A girl. You see a girl? Does she make you happy or scared? Scared? I see her scared. Yeah, you keep pointing to the chair. A girl. Is she old? Like, is she maybe mommy's grandma? A girl. A girl sitting over there. You see that? You see a girl? Oh. Did she wave to you? Is she nice? Oh, she is nice. Where is she? I know you're waving to the chair, but where is she behind? Like, can you look at her? Is she there? I don't see her, do you? Oh. Did she leave? No, she's still there? Where? I put you down and you go show me where she is? Go show me. Go bite her. Can you go give her a high five? Nope. Why? High five. You don't want to?
There is nothing more unsettling than a toddler casually describing a nightmare standing right in front of them. When she asks what the presence is doing, the terrifying face and sound he mimics to demonstrate is pure nightmare fuel. But the absolute scariest part of this footage is how he physically tracks the entity's movements in real time. He doesn't just stare at one dark corner. He points to the end of the living room, then tracks it moving into the kitchen, and finally points straight up to the ceiling. In paranormal research, an entity that defies gravity to crawl or hover on a ceiling is almost never classified as a standard human spirit. That kind of unnatural, spider-like movement is a classic hallmark of something much darker, often associated with demonic entities or crawlers. The fact that this entity is intentionally keeping itself hidden from the adults while actively showing itself to the toddler is a textbook isolation tactic. It knows the child's sensory filters are still wide open, and it is deliberately using that connection to feed off his pure, unfiltered panic. After little Jensen's terrifying encounter with whatever was crawling on the ceiling, the family understandably set up a security camera to see what was actually happening in their living room. And a few days later, the camera caught another incident. The older brother, Tucker, is just getting ready to head out with his mum, but as he's standing there, the environment is clearly highly active. Keep your focus on the little toy duck sitting completely by itself in the middle of the floor, and keep an eye out for the strange, illuminated anomalies floating through the air. Watch Tucker's body language closely too. It looks like he might actually catch a glimpse of the movement out of the corner of his eye before they walk out the door. When you combine floating orbs with actual physical object manipulation, it completely changes the conversation. Skeptics love to quickly debunk orbs as just dust particles or bugs catching the infrared light of a security camera. But in paranormal research, when an orb is captured in the exact same frame as a heavy physical interaction, like a toy being dragged across the floor, investigators classify those spheres as concentrated balls of raw spiritual energy actively trying to manifest. The creepiest part of this footage is the timeline of the movement. The entity moves the duck slightly while Tucker is standing right there, almost like it's testing the waters to see if he notices. But the absolute second the front door closes and the house is completely empty, the toy is forcefully dragged even further to the right. It proves that whatever has attached itself to this family isn't just putting on a spooky show for an audience. It is physically occupying their space, and it has absolutely no problem playing with the kids' toys the moment they leave the room. In this next clip, we look at the absolute worst case scenario for anyone who lives by themselves. The guy filming this is just returning home after stepping out for the night. As he walks up to his house, he casually glances up at his second-story window, but instead of the dark, empty room he was expecting, he sees something that stops him completely in his tracks. Someone, or something, is already inside, looking right back down at him. Keep in mind, his caption explicitly states that he lives completely alone.
No mamen. Acabo de llegar del trabajo y vean lo que estoy viendo en la ventana. No mamen.
Seeing a pale, almost translucent face staring out from a pitch-black room is pure nightmare fuel. In the paranormal community, entities that present themselves exactly like this are often referred to as watchers. Unlike poltergeists that aggressively throw things around to cause chaos and fear, watchers are incredibly still, quiet, and deeply territorial. They usually claim a specific room or floor of a house and simply observe the living. However, the fact that it is intentionally hovering right at the glass while he is standing outside shows a terrifying level of awareness. It isn't just mindlessly haunting a corner of the room, it is actively looking out the window, watching him return. It is a bold, territorial display, basically daring him to come inside, unlock his front door, and try to go to sleep. You see, just because you pay the rent doesn't mean you actually live alone. So, what do you think that is? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we tap into one of the most primal fears you can experience. You're home completely alone, locked in your bedroom, when someone starts knocking and calling your name in your mother's exact voice. The only problem, the first time this happened, she was actually on the phone with her real mum at that exact moment, who confirms she isn't anywhere near the house. When dealing with a mimic, the golden rule is to never respond and never open the door. But watch what happens when she refuses to answer and the entity decides it's completely tired of waiting in the hallway.
Hey guys, I'm home alone and I'm getting ready for bed.
Adrena!
Mom? Are you home?
Adrena! Are you there?
Wait, I thought you weren't going to be home for another 30 minutes. What?
Adrena!
Her scream, as that door slowly swings open to reveal an empty hallway, is absolutely bone-chilling. But that final moment actually sparked a massive debate in the comments. Are mimics physically capable of opening doors on their own? In traditional paranormal lore, the answer is almost always no. Mimics are considered psychological predators. They copy the voices of your loved ones, specifically to bait you into opening the door, because they lack the kinetic energy or the spiritual permission to cross a closed boundary on their own. They rely entirely on trickery to get an invitation. So, what does it mean if the door opens by itself? From a paranormal theory standpoint, it suggests two incredibly terrifying possibilities. Either this entity has been feeding off her raw panic long enough to gather the physical power of a poltergeist, or it was never just a mimic to begin with. What do you think it was? In this next clip, a man was walking through the Valley Plaza Mall late at night, long after the stores had closed and the crowds had gone home. It should be dead silent, but as he's walking past the dark storefronts and empty massage chairs, he hears something that immediately makes his blood run cold. The distinct, echoing sound of children laughing. So, he immediately pulls out his phone to document it and manages to capture the giggling on camera. But as he's trying to figure out where the sound is coming from, he notices something moving in the shadows down the hall. Keep your eyes on the dark kiosk counter in the distance and listen closely.
On everything I love, I just heard a group of kids over here laughing. On everything, bro. I just heard a group of kids laughing. Where the hell the kids at? What the fuck? Bro, I know I'm not tripping, bro. I just heard a whole bunch of kids laughing, bro. You hear that shit? What the fuck? Bro, I'm in the mall by myself. Where the fuck is that shit coming from? I know y'all heard that shit. Bro, what the fuck? I'm about to get about this bitch. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Staring right at me. Right there. My heart beating fast as fuck, bro. I'm scared as fuck. There's a person right there. In a red shirt. Right in front of me. Right there, y'all see him. There's a person right there. Bro, what the fuck going on? He just standing there. Look, he just standing there, bro. Bro, I'm out of here.
Hearing a child's laugh in an abandoned or empty space is basically the ultimate horror movie cliche, but in the paranormal community, it is actually taken very seriously. There are generally two schools of thought when it comes to phantom children. The first is that it's residual energy. Malls are places of high emotion, excitement, and energy, especially for kids. That intense joy can basically get recorded into the environment, playing back like a broken tape when the building is quiet. However, the second theory is much darker. Many investigators believe that malevolent entities will actively mimic the voices of crying or laughing children. It's a predatory tactic designed to instantly lower your guard and trigger your natural instinct to go investigate and help. When you combine that phantom laughing with a physical shadow ducking behind a counter in the distance, it looks a lot less like a residual echo and a lot more like an intelligent entity playing a very dark game of hide and seek, actively trying to bait him further into the dark mall. This next video was recorded by a father and daughter duo who were touring the historic streets of Galveston, Texas. Galveston is widely considered one of the most haunted cities in the United States, largely due to its tragic history with the Great Storm of 1900. For these two, ghost hunting is a shared passion, but they actually managed to capture their most compelling evidence without even realizing it. While they were filming the exterior of one of the city's famous Victorian-style houses, they missed the figure standing in the second-story window. It wasn't until they got home and re-watched the footage that they saw the pale shape looking back at them before it seemingly retreats into the darkness of the room.
Alright, so we took this video a while back. It's probably about 4 years ago, when I took my daughter to Galveston. We're doing those ghost tours. And later we come back and my daughter says, "Dad, look, I think I got something on one of her live photos that she did." And we've always wondered if that was something, but y'all let me know what y'all think. We think it's somebody there, like a ghost, and then it disappears. Like he's in the frame, then he disappears in the window. Now I'm gonna zoom in on it and play it. It was a live, so I have to zoom in and then do it because it's hard to see the whole video, but when we saw it there, that's what we call it. Y'all tell me what y'all think this is. So like you see there's a guy right there, like the picture of him, and then if you look, it's like he walks away, like it walks from, he's there and then he just walks away like through the thing. So y'all tell me what y'all think about that. I don't know. I know it's kind of hard to see on there, and I was trying to zoom in and zoom out and trying to get a closer look at it, but the first picture I put, it shows like it's still framing me up close, and it looks like a guy with like a hat with the white, looks like a figure in that window. It said I had to try to zoom in because it's a live video, so if you push it one way, you have to zoom on it just right so it follows it. But I don't know. What do y'all guys think? Do we get something? Do we not get something? Is it maybe something? Could it be a ghost? Could it not be a ghost? I wanted to research more on like that house because apparently there was a lot of stuff that went on in that house. If you've ever taken the tour in Galveston, one of them that goes by, we've taken a couple times just because me and my daughters, we love to go ghost hunting. But we've taken it a couple times. They showed us other pictures and stuff around there. Some other pictures other people have taken. But yeah, just let me know what y'all think. I mean, I talked to one of the tour guides that gave us the tour last time. I showed her that and she was like, yeah, I think that's something. So I don't know if she's saying that or what, but y'all tell me what y'all think.
Galveston's haunted reputation comes from a massive amount of residual energy left behind by its turbulent past. These old houses are like sponges for spiritual activity, and sightings of figures in white are incredibly common in this area. Often, these are believed to be the spirits of former residents who are still tethered to their family homes, repeating their daily routines in a loop. However, the way this figure moves is what has paranormal investigators talking. A residual haunting usually doesn't react to the living. It just plays like a movie on a loop. But this figure appears to notice the camera and immediately moves away, which suggests an intelligent entity. It knew it was being watched and chose to disappear back into the shadows of the house. What do you think that was? Was that a spirit of old Galveston watching from the shadows? Or is it just a trick of the light? I'll leave you to be the judge. This video you're about to watch comes from the home surveillance footage of a co-worker's house. According to the person who shared this, the homeowner has been dealing with a heavy, oppressive presence in this specific area of their house, claiming that they repeatedly see this exact same shadowy figure lurking around late at night. Finally, their security camera triggered and captured what they've been dreading. In paranormal analysis, whenever a hazy, indistinct shape drifts across the screen like that, skeptics immediately jump to a few standard conclusions. They'll argue it's just an out-of-focus bug walking across the camera lens, or perhaps the headlights of a passing car refracting through the glass. But we can definitively rule the car lights out. The co-worker who lives in the house confirmed that at the exact moment this anomaly was recorded, there were absolutely no cars driving by outside and no external lights shining onto the property. If there is no external light source, there can be no reflection, which means this shadow light anomaly wasn't caused by the environment. It was an intelligence generating its own luminous energy to manifest in our reality. What the camera caught wasn't a trick of lighting or a wandering insect. It was the physical visual discharge of the exact recurring entity the homeowner knows is waiting for them in the dark. What do you think about this? This next clip shows an anomaly that has baffled a homeowner for the last 4 years. One night, a strange, erratic light source triggered her camera's motion sensors, so she uploaded the video and it sparked a massive debate. The movement is so distinctly autonomous and fluttery that the creator's friend and dozens of people in the comments are entirely convinced the camera captured a fairy. Naturally, skeptics were quick to jump in with two main scientific explanations. Either it's simply a trick of the light reflecting off the kitchen counter, or it's the camera's infrared lights refracting off a tiny spider web hanging just in front of the lens. Keep those theories in mind as you watch the footage. If you watch the trajectory closely, both of those logical explanations completely fall apart. First, if this were merely a reflection, like a passing car's headlights sliding across the kitchen counter, the light would physically bend, distort, or break the moment it crossed the edge of the countertop. But it doesn't. The light maintains its shape and trajectory perfectly. It doesn't bend with the counter because it isn't on the counter. It is a free-floating, three-dimensional energy source moving through the air directly in front of it. The spiderweb theory is much more plausible. In fact, it's exactly what the homeowner thought when her Ring notifications first started going off like crazy. To solve the problem, she physically went out into the room and scrubbed that entire corner, checking for and clearing out any spider webs within a 5-foot radius. But here is the detail that turns this from a mild curiosity into a terrifying encounter. The footage we just watched was recorded after she cleaned the area. Whatever this anomaly was, it wasn't a web and it wasn't leaving. The persistent, unexplained presence of this energy finally pushed the homeowner to her breaking point. She was so spooked that she grabbed her dog at 3 a.m., abandoned the house, and drove 40 minutes to sleep on her parents' couch. When she finally returned the next day, the anomaly was completely gone and she never saw it again. What do you think that was? I'll let you be the judge. This next clip takes us into an environment universally recognized as a massive focal point for the unexplained, a cemetery. In paranormal research, graveyards are considered active batteries of residual energy that hold a dense concentration of spiritual activity simply due to the emotional weight and history attached to the ground. The footage comes from a creator who makes a regular habit of live streaming his late-night graveyard visits. As he stands in the dark, his face covered by a black balaclava while he interacts with his chat, pay close attention to the background just over his right shoulder.
Graben. Pinche velador está loco. Ese Hidalgo. Dylan Adrián, ese Hidalgo, no.
Right in the middle of his broadcast, the distinct silhouette of what appears to be a full-bodied figure casually walks through the shadows directly behind the tombstones. When someone repeatedly uses a final resting place for entertainment, they inevitably run the risk of disturbing whatever is anchored there. Spirits, much like the living, can eventually reach a breaking point when their peace is constantly interrupted. This manifestation doesn't feel like a random, wandering soul just caught on camera by accident. Given how often he streams there, it feels much more like a subtle, calculated warning. It's a quiet, but deeply unsettling way for the residents of that graveyard to let him know that they are watching, they just want to rest, and they have finally had enough of his cameras. If an entity is willing to step out of the shadows and walk directly behind you while you're live streaming, it might be time to find a new location to film. In this next clip, we explore a concept that's so scary, it sounds straight out of a nightmare. What if you aren't just living with a spirit, but living inside a monster house that is actively hunting you? You see, for weeks, the guy in this video had been dealing with deeply unsettling auditory phenomena, most notably hearing distinct, disembodied laughter in his house when he knew for a fact he was completely home alone. But tonight, the entity decided to stop laughing from the shadows and start physically interacting with the environment. He hears the heavy, rhythmic thud of his kitchen cabinets opening and slamming shut on their own. So, armed with his camera, he goes in to investigate. But what makes this footage so sinister is the undeniable intelligence behind the activity. The entity plays a predatory game of cat and mouse. The moment he steps into the kitchen, the noise dead stops. But the second he turns his camera away, it immediately starts again. Watch what happens when the entity finally decides to drop the act and show itself.
Something opens my cabinet and laughs.
No one's in my cupboard that I'm aware of. Oh my god. Fuck that. I swear one of these cupboards just went. It wasn't the same noise that usually happens, but one of these. Maybe that. No, that won't go because it's got stuff in front of it. This is bullshit. I swear to God that cupboard is moving. Oh my god. Oh shit. Right, that's it. I'm going. Oh my god.
The sheer, unfiltered panic in his voice as he yells is the sound of a man realizing he is no longer at the top of the food chain in his own home. But the most chilling detail happens just as he turns to flee. The cabinet doesn't just slam shut, it violently swings completely wide open. In paranormal psychology, an entity that plays red light, green light with a victim isn't just haunting a space, it's actively trying to break the occupant down psychologically to establish dominance. When that cabinet swings wide open, right as he turns his back to run, it is the entity claiming its territory. This leaves us with one final, scary question. If your own home suddenly turned into a hunting ground and things around the house start playing games with you, what would you do? This next clip was posted by a mum who's convinced that her toddler has just seen a ghost. It is a long-standing theory in the paranormal community that young children possess a heightened awareness, allowing them to see things that adults simply brush past. What starts as a normal, happy moment between a mother and her toddler hanging out on the bed quickly shifts when the child's attention is completely derailed by something invisible in the room. The mother noted in her caption that while her daughter didn't cry before or after the specific footage, and that there have been other times in this house where she was absolutely petrified by whatever she was staring at. Watch her expression change and listen to what she points at.
Nipple. Why are you scared? Please. Oh. What's wrong?
Dada.
Where's Dada? Oh.
Okay, what are those? Huh? Others.
I don't know, what is it?
What is it?
There's nothing out there.
No, we are there.
What?
No, we are there.
Where?
We are there. Don't know it goes.
A ghost? Did you say it's a ghost?
No, it goes.
Where's a ghost?
No, it goes.
Oh.
It's definitely chilling to watch a child go from laughing to being completely hyperfixated on an empty space. But the most striking part is her vocabulary. She explicitly points into the void and identifies the presence as a ghost. Toddlers don't really have the psychological capacity to fake a complex visual tracking response just for fun. She is actively watching something move across the room. The mum handles it like most parents probably would, assuming it's just her child's active imagination. But from an investigator's perspective, verbally acknowledging and inviting an unverified entity closer is always a risky move, even as a joke. It gives whatever is standing in that room validation. It leaves you wondering, when a child points to an empty corner and tells you someone is there, at what point do you stop laughing and start believing them? This next clip perfectly captures the terrifying progression of a physical haunting. When an entity first starts interacting with our world, it often tests the waters with smaller, easily dismissed movements before escalating to heavier objects. In the first half of the video, we are looking at a seemingly normal bedroom setup. Keep your eyes on the bag resting quietly on top of the bed.
Video lang. Makita tayo.
There is no visible string, no sudden tilt of the mattress, and no logical reason for a stationary bag to suddenly drag itself over the edge. The movement is a clear, downward pull, but whatever is in this house wasn't satisfied with just knocking luggage onto the floor. In the second part of the footage, the kinetic energy shifts, focusing on a seating arrangement. Watch closely because the extreme specificity of what happens next is what makes it so unnerving.
Tingnan nyo guys ha. Nandiyan na siya. Nandiyan na. Nandiyan na siya. Nandiyan na. Nandiyan na. Gumalaw yung bangko.
Notice how the surrounding environment remains completely undisturbed. The table doesn't bump. The stool right next to it doesn't wobble, and there is no shifting of the floor. Just a single chair being smoothly and deliberately dragged backward by an unseen hand. When paranormal activity is this targeted, it completely rules out environmental factors like heavy vibrations, earthquakes, or drafts. It proves that the entity has enough focus and density to grip a single, specific piece of furniture and move it with purpose. It isn't just lashing out blindly. It knows exactly what it wants to move, and it wants to make sure the homeowner is watching when it happens. This next footage gives us a rare, real-time look at an investigator actively negotiating with a poltergeist, and it perfectly illustrates how unpredictable and intelligent these entities can be. The video starts right after a violent physical disturbance. That heavy metal stand with the draping beads on the middle shelf had just swung forward on its own, violently striking the glass door of the display cabinet. The investigator immediately opens the right side door, hits record, and begins a direct communication session, challenging whatever is in the room to do it again. At first, the response is weak. We just see a slight, subtle jingling of the draped beads. It's the exact kind of movement a skeptic would immediately debunk as a heavy footstep or the investigator subtly bumping the wooden cabinet. But the investigator knows this, so he doesn't back down. He verbally pushes the entity, asking it to actually swing the object like it did before. What the entity does in response leaves him completely unnerved and physically lightheaded.
Poltergeist. So I'm sitting here gaming, and that object up there swung and literally smacked the glass really hard. Damn reflection, but look, still moving. Let's get you before it stops. Look. Still moving. Oh no, it moved. Look, it was sitting there, as you can see from the dust. Oh, so it moved. Alright. Can you make it swing again? Damn, I really need to wipe off in there. Look at all that shit. Can you make it swing again? Try to open that more. Hello? Can you make it move again? Oh, look. It made them all move now. Nice. Can you make it swing like you did before when it hit the glass? It's going out of focus. Alright, now I said swing it, not move it. Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise. And I opened that thing, so probably let the damn thing out. Yo, this thing keeps moving. I'm like nervous and shaking, and I'm lightheaded a little bit. Keeps going out of focus. Surprised them things ain't shaking more, how much it moved. I'm so nervous, man. So lightheaded. I'm gonna regret this, but can you make it move again? Can you make it move again? So lightheaded. Can you slide it the other way? Keeps going out of focus. Yo! Was that a nickel, a dime, a penny? Look, there's my change. That thing went flying. How did it not hit the glass? See, that's some glitch in the Matrix shit. Yo, I gotta rewatch that, cause how to get past that glass and fly behind this stuff. That's definitely not what flew out. I don't even know where that went. Or even, it looked like a quarter or a nickel or a dime, because it wasn't no penny. That shit was too shiny for that. I'm like freaking out. See, it keeps going out of focus, man. I think something's in there. I'm good. It can stay in there. Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch that again, because I'm a little stumped on how it didn't hit the glass.
Watch the trajectory of that coin carefully. It doesn't just explode randomly outward. It is deliberately threaded through a complex physical environment. It flings from the closed section, passes cleanly behind the other objects on the shelf, completely avoids striking the closed glass barrier, and shoots straight out into the room through the open right side without ever grazing the open glass door. That is not a random burst of environmental energy. That is calculated, intelligent, and highly targeted kinetic control. It's the entity's way of making one thing absolutely clear. It doesn't take orders. It has absolute control over the physical environment, and it can reach out and touch you whenever it wants. What do you think is doing all that? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the following video, a seemingly innocent interactive display at a children's museum manages to capture something it was never designed to see. The person filming is just passing the time, messing around with a thermal imaging exhibit. As he holds his hand up to the lens, his body heat registers normally in bright, warm colors. But it's what happens in the background of the screen that has left viewers completely baffled. Lying completely motionless on the floor is a dark blue, human-shaped silhouette. Confused, the man pans his camera away from the monitor and points it directly at the physical floor in front of him, only to reveal that the space is entirely empty. Watch. In paranormal investigations, thermal cameras are heavily utilized because entities are believed to drain ambient heat from their environment in order to manifest. This sudden energy drain creates drastic, localized cold spots. Because the figure on this screen is registering as a deep, solid blue, it means whatever is lying there is significantly colder than the ambient temperature of the room. But what makes this footage truly compelling is the input from people who work with this exact technology every single day. One viewer, who uses thermal imaging professionally, pointed out a crucial detail. While a living person will leave behind a lingering warm imprint on a surface after they get up, a shadow or a trick of the light will never leave behind a lingering cold spot. If a person had just been lying on the floor as a prank moments before the video started, the screen would show a residual yellow or red outline, not a freezing blue void. Whatever this camera is picking up, it defies the normal rules of residual body heat, and it certainly isn't a shadow. Did this museum exhibit accidentally capture the heavy imprint of a spirit tethered to that spot on the floor? Or is this just a highly unusual glitch in the system? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the next clip, we take a look at a deeply unsettling piece of home security footage that proves you never really know what is wandering around your property when you aren't there. The homeowner shared this video with a very specific disclaimer. The camera is set up inside the house, looking out through the front window, and the family is currently away on vacation. Every single light inside the house is supposed to be completely off, but as the footage rolls, something inexplicable happens. Pay attention to the glowing mass that appears on the right side of the screen, and notice the bizarre blue flash reflecting against the glass. Since the camera is positioned indoors, that light is reflecting from behind the lens, meaning something illuminated inside the dark, empty house. Take a look. There is a lot to unpack here, especially when considering how the camera's system actually reacted to the event. The homeowner perfectly described the glowing mass, noting that it initially looks like footsteps, then starts floating. If you watch closely, it elongates and shifts before morphing into a solid orb and drifting intentionally across the yard. While skeptics are usually quick to dismiss floating anomalies like this as simple dust particles or tiny bugs catching the infrared light, there is one massive detail that makes this much harder to explain away. The homeowner confirmed that this glowing mass actually triggered the camera's motion detector. Security systems are typically calibrated to ignore small, close-up particles like dust, requiring something with actual physical mass or a significant heat signature to trip the sensor. The shape-shifting nature of this anomaly, combined with the triggered motion alert and that unexplained blue flash inside the home, makes this a highly compelling piece of footage. Was this just a heavy speck of dust drifting on an indoor draft that somehow managed to trick the system? Or did this camera catch a genuine spirit roaming the property while the owners were away? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In this clip, we witness what happens when a subtle haunting rapidly escalates into a full-blown, violent infestation. Most people set up indoor security cameras to give themselves peace of mind while they are away. But for this homeowner, those cameras ended up capturing the exact opposite. The timeline of this activity is what makes it so deeply unsettling. It shows an entity testing its boundaries and gaining strength. The activity begins in the living room while the house is completely empty. The ceiling fan suddenly turns itself on, spinning for a few moments before stopping. To rule out a random electrical glitch or a draft, the light attached to the fan actually switches on and off exactly as the blades come to a halt. This is a deliberate manipulation of the electrical current. Then, in the background, a closet door slowly creaks open and clicks shut entirely on its own. Watch.
What is going on in my house when I'm not home?
In paranormal research, entities often start small to test the waters and build up kinetic energy. Whatever has invaded this home quickly realized it was being watched, and the physical manipulation only grows stronger. That same closet door continues to act up, but the entity begins interacting with much heavier objects. The tablecloth is noticeably tugged by an invisible force, and a heavy wooden dining bench is dragged across the floor. Moving solid wood takes a significant amount of energy, proving this is no longer just a passive spirit.
It's happening again.
By the next day, things crossed the line from creepy anomalies into highly aggressive, chaotic poltergeist activity. The energy in the house completely shifts. Multiple dining chairs are violently pulled away from the table, the bench is dragged once again, and the door repeatedly slams. Even smaller objects become projectiles, as a tissue box is aggressively pulled across the living room carpet. Moments later, the homeowner walks into the frame, completely baffled by the inexplicable, terrifying mess left behind in an empty house.
It's getting more intense.
While moving furniture is terrifying, coming face to face with the entity is a completely different level of nightmare. In this next part, the man's son is hanging out in his room when that same problematic door slowly swings open, but this time it isn't an invisible force. According to the family, the son actually saw a distinct, terrifying face peering back at him from the dark space in the closet. His blood-curdling scream as he bolts downstairs in absolute terror tells you everything you need to know about what was looking at him. At this point, the house is an absolute powder keg. On a separate day, the son is just trying to distract himself and regain some sense of normalcy by playing video games. But the entity decides to make it completely clear that they are no longer welcome there. As objects start shifting and moving around him once again, he finally reaches his breaking point, drops what he's doing, and gets the hell out of there.
Daddy? Daddy, it's happening again. Daddy? Daddy? I don't like this. Daddy, I don't like this. Daddy?
When you look at this specific pattern of escalation, it raises a terrifying question. What exactly is living in this house? Activity that starts with electrical interference and subtle movements before rapidly evolving into throwing heavy furniture usually points to a poltergeist. Poltergeists are notoriously noisy and destructive, often feeding off the raw emotional energy and stress of the people living in the home, especially teenagers, like the son in the video. However, manifesting a physical face to intentionally terrify a child is a deeply predatory behavior that points to something much darker. Many investigators would look at this timeline and classify it as a demonic infestation. These dark entities systematically break down a family's psychological state. They start by making you question your sanity with moving objects, exhaust you with fear, and then reveal themselves to feed off the resulting terror. When a haunting goes from turning on a ceiling fan to physically dragging heavy furniture and showing its face to children, you are dealing with a highly dangerous presence. Would you try to bring in a professional to cleanse a house this active? Or are you packing your bags the second a chair moves on its own? In the following clip, we encounter a scenario that goes far beyond a typical residual haunting. When investigators assess a location, they don't just look for movement or sound. They pay very close attention to environmental and sensory changes. One of the most severe red flags you can experience in your home is olfactory, specifically the sudden, unexplained smell of sulfur or rotten eggs. In the paranormal world, that nasty smell usually isn't just bad plumbing. A lot of people believe it's the physical sign of something really dark and heavy entering our reality. When an entity like that steps into a room, it completely shifts the energy. Keep that in mind and keep your eyes glued to the wall right behind the couch.
Oh, what the fuck?
Baby, what took you so long to answer? Dude, the house smells like literally like rotten egg. Like, it literally smells like you forgot to take the trash out or something. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but this shit, like, I'm literally feel like I'm about to puke. I was just taking a nap and the house smells disgusting. Yeah, I'll open the door. I don't know if that's gonna do much though. The door's open. I don't know. I need a fan or something. You need to get home and like air, like do something in here. Did you take the trash out? What the fuck, baby? The lights are fucking flickering now, dude. Baby, stop! What the fuck? Baby!
When an unseen force interacts with the physical world, the choice of what it manipulates tells you everything you need to know about its intentions. Knocking a cup off a table is a simple cry for attention, but deliberately targeting a symbol of faith and physically inverting it is a highly calculated act of mockery. Pulling off a manipulation like that requires a massive draw of raw energy, which perfectly explains the sudden electrical interference and flickering lights right before it happens. It serves a very specific, deeply sinister purpose. The entity isn't just trying to scare the occupants, it is launching a psychological attack designed to strip away their sense of spiritual protection and claim absolute dominance over the space. When things start smelling like decay and the symbols on your wall turn upside down, you aren't dealing with a restless ghost passing through. You are dealing with something deeply malevolent that is actively making itself at home. In the next clip, we see a perfectly normal family moment take a very strange turn. A mother and father are sitting on the floor, playing with their baby boy. The baby is laughing, and everything seems completely fine, but right in the middle of a giggle, he abruptly stops. The parents were actually so confused by his sudden change in behavior that they posted the video asking a genuine question. Did my son see a ghost or have a seizure? This naturally sparked a huge debate in the comments. While some people suggested it looked like a brief absent seizure, others pointed out an environmental anomaly. As you watch, pay very close attention to the lighting in the room right before the baby's demeanor shifts.
Yeah. It's so cute.
While a medical explanation is always the most logical place to start, a lot of viewers argued against it based on the visual evidence. First, the physical reaction doesn't entirely fit. Even while his face is frozen, his arms are still subtly moving, and the freeze lasts for just a fraction of a second before he snaps right back to normal. As several people pointed out, absent seizures don't typically resolve that instantaneously, but the detail that really makes people lean toward a paranormal explanation is the lighting. Just as one viewer noticed, right before the baby locks his eyes on the empty space, the brightness of the camera feed inexplicably surges. A medical episode happening inside a child's brain does not cause the external lighting in a room to fluctuate. That kind of sudden light anomaly is often associated with energy shifting in a room. The parents don't know what happened to their boy, but what do you think? This next clip was filmed in an empty grocery store. You see, there is a very specific, deeply unsettling feeling that comes with working the graveyard shift in a massive empty building. Grocery stores are designed to be packed with people, light, and noise. So when you strip all of that away at 3 a.m., it turns into a maze of dead quiet aisles and harsh fluorescent lights. It becomes the perfect, isolated playground for something that doesn't belong. For a while, the overnight stalker who filmed this had been feeling like he wasn't actually alone in the store. He kept catching quick glimpses of a figure in a white shirt slipping around corners or ducking behind shelves just out of his direct line of sight. It's easy to try and brush that off as simple sleep deprivation. But when he walked out of the back room on this particular night, the entity decided to stop hiding in the periphery and make a very physical, undeniable introduction.
Alright, at work, alone, middle of the night.
Look at that one sign. Swing it. What is up with that? Nothing else is moving. The one sign right there. What's up with that?
Skeptics will immediately try to blame the HVAC system kicking on or a draft from a loading dock door. But basic physics completely ruins that argument. If that was air current, the other identical signs would at least be swaying too. But they are not. They're dead still. That isolated, aggressive movement is completely unnatural. And the fact that the sign is hanging way too high up for a living person to physically reach just adds to the nightmare. That isn't a draft. That is the exact same figure in the white shirt he's been seeing for weeks, finally stepping out into the open and showing him how much physical power it actually has. What would you do if that were you? In this next clip, we are dealing with a situation that feels straight out of a horror movie. We've all heard stories about a random electronic toy going off in the middle of the night, usually just because of a dying battery or a weird glitch. But what this creator captured going on in her bedroom completely defies logic. For a while, she kept waking up to the sound of a very specific melody coming from her bedside lamp. But the terrifying part is how the lamp behaves. It doesn't just play randomly, it waits until she is fully asleep, and the exact second she physically gets up or moves around to check on it, the music dead stops. That kind of reaction isn't a mechanical error, that shows awareness. It knows when she's awake and asleep. If you listen closely, the song playing is Auld Lang Syne, the classic tune everyone sings at midnight on New Year's Eve. Hearing that tinny, cheerful melody echoing in a pitch-black bedroom while you're trying to sleep is unsettling enough on its own. Naturally, the comment section was flooded with people trying to rationalize it, mostly claiming it's just the sound of a musical microchip dying on a low battery. But here is the massive problem with that theory. The creator explicitly confirmed that the lamp is completely unplugged from the wall, and it doesn't even take batteries. There is literally zero physical power source connected to this object. If a device has absolutely no electricity running to it, it cannot produce sound. Unless, of course, something unseen in that room is providing its own energy to make it play. So, what do you think? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, what should have been an exciting fresh start in a new house immediately turns into a nightmare. He has just moved in and is completely alone in the house. He's standing in a dark hallway when the lights start to glitch out and the sliding door at the very end of the hall begins to move.
I was moving into my new house. I was alone and this happened. Good luck to me.
Notice the specific way that door closes. It isn't a smooth, continuous glide caused by a slanted floor or a heavy draft. It has a distinct start and stop motion, exactly like a physical hand is gripping the edge and carefully pulling it shut. He bravely walks down the hall, slides the door open, and finds absolutely nothing inside. It's definitely not the kind of welcoming committee you want to deal with on your first day in a new house. You might try to rationalize that first event and just go to work, hoping it was a weird, isolated fluke. But the second half of the video destroys any chance of a logical explanation. He comes home from his shift to find that exact same bedroom door actively opening and closing on its own. He works up the courage again to push through it and see what is waiting for him inside.
I came home from work. Something seemed strange. My lights were on and something weird happened. WTF is that thing? Somebody get me out of here.
The door moving is creepy enough, but finding that vintage clown doll sitting dead center on his bed takes it to a completely different level of terrifying. Remember, he lives completely alone and absolutely did not put that doll there. In paranormal research, objects like old dolls are often viewed as trigger objects, items that can hold significant residual energy or even act as an anchor for an entity. Physically transporting an object like that and placing it directly on where he sleeps while he was out of the house is a massive escalation. It's a very clear, very sinister message from whatever is sharing that house with him. I was in your room and I am waiting for you. In this next clip, we see why setting up a security camera in your bedroom can sometimes give you a lot more than you bargained for. The person who filmed this was very clear in their caption. They made absolutely sure that the closet door with the mirror on it was securely shut and latched. Watch what happens to it. A latch door doesn't just pop open on its own because of a breeze or the house settling. It takes physical force to undo a latch and pull it open. But as creepy as that is, it's really just the warm-up. That same night, while the creator was actually in the room, fast asleep in bed out of the camera's view, their phone got a motion alert from the camera, and when they checked the footage the next day, they saw this. In the video, you can clearly see a distinct dark shadow moving across the wall and the door. The creator confirmed there was absolutely nothing moving inside or outside the house that could have cast a shadow like that. But the detail that really freaked them out is where the shadow ends up. Toward the end of the clip, the dark shape stops and just hovers right at the foot of the bed, lingering exactly where they were sleeping. It's one thing for an entity to mess with your closet doors while you're out of the room, but standing over you in the dark while you are completely vulnerable and asleep, that is a massive invasion of privacy and honestly, a great reason to pack your bags. What would you do if you experienced something like this? This next clip presents a very unsettling dynamic. When we see grainy baby monitor footage recorded at 3 a.m., we naturally brace ourselves for something terrifying. But what happens when the entity lurking in your child's nursery isn't there to scare them, but to protect them? The footage shows a baby awake and playing in his crib in the middle of the night. As he rocks backward, getting dangerously close to smacking the back of his head against the wooden rails, an unseen force intervenes. If you watch the baby's momentum, the physics simply don't make sense for a self-correction. As the mother pointed out in its post, He is a 23-pound toddler. A baby of that size and motor development cannot abruptly halt a backward fall and smoothly glide forward using just one hand. That movement was a clear, controlled, and gentle tug from an external source, pulling him safely away from the edge. What makes this even more fascinating and eerie is the established pattern. According to the family, this isn't an isolated incident. They regularly capture this kind of activity around the exact same time at night, and the presence behaves in a distinctly maternal way. It doesn't just catch him when he falls. It has also been documented carefully adjusting his blanket to keep him warm while he sleeps. In paranormal theory, this is often categorized as a guardian spirit, or perhaps a lingering familial energy. And while it is certainly comforting to know that the ghost in your house wants to keep your baby safe, it is still an incredibly tough reality to accept that an invisible entity is taking the night shift in your nursery. In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying encounter that turns a completely mundane, everyday space into a nightmare. The guy filming is just making his way through a quiet, empty utility room. It seems like a completely normal, boring walk until the dead silence is suddenly broken by something you never want to hear when you think you're alone. And whatever makes that sound follows it up immediately with a massive, aggressive display of physical force right in front of him. Watch how fast his survival instincts kick in when he realizes what is standing in the aisle with him.
I know.
Moving a heavy, front-loading appliance door on its hinges requires a significant amount of physical strength. It's not something a draft or a slightly uneven floor is going to accomplish. But where this happens is actually the most interesting piece of the puzzle. In paranormal lore, utility rooms, basements, and laundry areas are notorious hotbeds for spiritual activity. Paranormal investigators widely believe that water is a massive conductor for spiritual energy. Entities naturally gravitate toward places with heavy plumbing, drainage, and large electrical appliances. Those elements combined create a massive, easily accessible pool of kinetic and electromagnetic energy for them to draw from in order to physically manifest. Whatever is sharing that room with him isn't just a weak, residual spirit. It has siphoned enough ambient energy from its environment to not only project its voice, but to physically interact with the real world. It wanted to stop him right in his tracks and show him exactly who was in control of that room. What do you think was sharing that room with him? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the next clip, we see exactly why exploring sealed-off, abandoned buildings at night is always a terrible idea. The guy filming is standing outside a completely deserted house, and you can immediately tell he already knows he shouldn't be there. He unlocks the door to go inside, but before he even crosses the threshold, he starts loudly praying. Whether he heard something moving around inside from the porch, or the energy of the place was just that overwhelmingly heavy, his instincts were screaming at him that the house wasn't actually empty, and he barely takes a few steps inside before he gets violent, physical confirmation. Keep your eyes locked on the dark doorway straight ahead of him.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يابا بسم الله يا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله
The sheer amount of physical force required to throw that bed to the floor like that is staggering, and you can clearly see what did it too. But the absolute scariest part of this video isn't the initial scare, it's the aftermath. When he finally gathers the courage to walk into that room to see what just threw the bed, it is completely, impossibly empty. There are no footsteps running away, no one hiding in the corner, just a wrecked room. In a lot of Middle Eastern and Islamic paranormal lore, abandoned spaces like this are heavily associated with the jinn. Unlike traditional ghosts, which are the spirits of deceased humans, jinn are considered an entirely different species of entities that live alongside us, often claiming empty, ruined houses as their own territory. When a human walks into their domain, they don't just give you a spooky, subtle haunting. They aggressively defend their ground to scare you out. Moving that fast, displaying that much physical power, and vanishing without a trace is a classic hallmark of a jinn telling you to get out of its house immediately. In this next clip, we dive into one of the most unsettling phenomena in the paranormal world: children seeing things that adults completely miss. People don't just randomly film their family sleeping for no reason. This kind of terrifying incident had actually been happening for a while, which is exactly why the father finally decided to set up a night vision camera in their room to capture it. They are all fast asleep until the little girl suddenly wakes up in an absolute panic. Skeptics will immediately try to brush this off as just a standard childhood nightmare, but her body language completely disproves that. When a kid wakes up from a bad dream, they usually just cry and bury their face in their parents' chests for comfort, because the scary thing was inside their head. But she doesn't do that. Her eyes are locked on a very specific physical spot in the room. She is actively tracking something. Watch what happens to her level of terror when her dad actually tries to walk into the dark to check it out. In the paranormal community, it is a widely accepted theory that young children possess a much broader sensory frequency than adults. Because their minds haven't been conditioned to logically filter out the impossible yet, they are highly sensitive to spiritual entities and energy shifts that we are completely blind to. The most chilling part of this footage is her reaction when her father steps toward the area she's staring at. She starts screaming purely because she doesn't want him going over there. She isn't remembering a scary dream. She is actively watching something standing in the dark, and she is genuinely terrified for her dad's safety. When a child reacts with that much intense protective panic to an empty space, you don't go investigate the dark. You just turn on every light in the house and maybe call for an exorcism. In the next clip, we are taking a look at a place that most people actively try to avoid, especially after dark, the basement of a funeral home. According to the caption, a worker was just heading down into the storage and receiving area for the bodies. This is the exact room where the recently deceased are first brought in off the street. Naturally, it's supposed to be the quietest, most completely still room in the entire building, but as he walks into the dark, the dead silence is violently interrupted. Keep your eyes on the heavy metal equipment standing right in the middle of the room.
Estamos aquí en la funeraria, otra vez, con ruidos raros. Entonces, pues, está solo. Ahora sí, ¿cuál pinche que se ve? Que nada. Estoy solo a la chingada. Estoy solo. A la chingada. A la chingada. A la no mames. A la chingada.
It takes a very deliberate, aggressive amount of physical force to knock heavy funeral stands straight to the floor like that. That isn't a draft from an AC vent, and it isn't a clumsy bump. That is a targeted, violent push. When you dive into paranormal theory, funeral homes are basically considered massive spiritual transit stations. They are the ultimate liminal space between the physical world and whatever comes next. Because of that, investigators believe these buildings are constantly flooded with the confused, restless energy of spirits who might not even realize they have passed away yet. However, a sudden, violent display of kinetic energy usually points to something much heavier than just a confused ghost. Throwing heavy objects is often a sign of immense frustration from a trapped spirit. Even worse, it could be a darker, parasitic entity that actively feeds on the intense residual grief and heavy atmosphere of the morgue, lashing out at the lone worker just to prove that it is the one truly in charge of the basement. This next clip shows one of the most violent and chaotic examples of a spiritual home invasion you will ever come across. But to understand how scary this was for the poster, we need to go back a few days. The guy who lives here experienced something on a day when he was actually miles away, out performing a show. In the middle of his set, he suddenly became violently ill. He felt shaky, weak, and described it as if his energy was being completely drained right out of his body. Trusting his gut that something was horribly wrong, he pulled out his phone to check his home security cameras. What he saw unfolding in his empty kitchen is absolute nightmare fuel. The cross on his wall was turned upside down. There was a scary sound coming from his kitchen, and chairs were being thrown around. Because of this, he decided to put more cameras around his house, and one day while he was sleeping, this happened. Pay close attention to the bedroom door and keep your eyes locked on the vintage items sitting on top of his dresser. Seeing a bedroom door slowly creak open on its own is creepy enough, but the movement on that dresser takes this to a whole new level of disturbing. That doll doesn't just fall over from a vibration, it is being actively dragged back and forth, left and right, exactly like unseen hands are physically playing with it. In paranormal research, vintage dolls are notorious for acting as spiritual sponges or trigger objects. Because they are designed in the likeness of humans, dark entities often use them as vessels or focal points to manipulate physical energy. What you are seeing here is a classic psychological intimidation tactic. The entity opened the bedroom door to physically demonstrate that it has free reign of his house, and it started toying with the doll to mock a childlike innocence while he is completely unconscious and defenseless. It is a terrifying physical reminder that when you are dealing with an attachment of this level, you are never truly alone, especially when you close your eyes. When people asked why he hasn't moved out yet, he revealed that he did just move into this place, and whatever this is, didn't come with the house, it is attached to him. It followed him from his previous place. What would you do if you were in his shoes? In the next clip, we look at why pulling an all-nighter at the office can sometimes be a terrifying idea. Corporate buildings are designed for daytime hustle, but when everyone goes home, the lights dim and the space empties out, the atmosphere completely changes. The guy in this security footage is working late and decides to catch a quick nap at his desk. But it becomes very clear very quickly that he isn't the only one clocking in for the graveyard shift. It starts with a few classic, unsettling disruptions designed to wake him up and get his attention. But watch how aggressively the energy shifts when he finally gets up to investigate. You can literally see his panic escalate in real time. It starts with the phantom phone call, a classic terrifying poltergeist tactic. In paranormal research, entities manipulating electronics like phones or radios is often seen as an attempt to bridge the frequency gap, or simply a deliberate way to demand your undivided attention. When he picks up and hears dead air, the entity immediately pivots to physical manipulation. Moving a heavy office chair on its wheels takes effort, but aggressively throwing that black chair completely to the floor is a massive display of kinetic power. In the paranormal field, office hauntings are actually highly documented. You see workspaces are constantly filled with high stress, anxiety, and intense, heavy emotions. Many investigators believe that dense, negative energy can pool in these areas over time, creating the perfect feeding ground for poltergeists or parasitic entities. Whatever was in that room was actively feeding off his rising fear, escalating its physical attacks step by step until he finally broke. Bolting out of that office as fast as humanly possible was absolutely the only correct move. This next clip was posted by a dad who was just standing in his kitchen, completely focused on feeding his baby. His back is turned to the rest of the room, leaving him completely blind to what is slowly unfolding right behind him. He actually had no idea the full extent of what happened until he went back and pulled this security footage later. Keep your eyes on the paper towel roll sitting by the sink and watch the upper cabinets.
Oh, fucking hell, what was that? What was that? I know. What was... That shit me up. Sorry, I'm falling over. I know.
Seeing an object physically lift off the counter and levitate before dropping is one of the most undeniable displays of poltergeist activity you can capture. It didn't just tip over from a passing breeze, it was actively picked up and dropped. In paranormal research, entities that pull these kinds of stunts are usually classified as attention-seeking. But what makes this specific encounter so chilling is the intelligence behind the timing. It deliberately manipulated the paper towels to create a noise, forcing him to turn around and look. His raw, startled reaction is the exact spike in emotional energy the entity was looking for. Once it had his attention and his adrenaline was peaking, it immediately popped open the upper cabinet to establish its presence in the room. Poltergeist activity is famously drawn to households with high ambient energy, and sometimes the bustling, chaotic energy of raising a child can inadvertently act as a battery for these entities. It didn't want to hurt them. It just wanted to make it very clear that it was standing right there in the kitchen with them. In the following clip you're about to watch, we dive into the terrifying reality of being a night shift security guard. Malls and department stores are designed to be filled with massive crowds. So when you empty them out, kill the music, and turn off the lights at 3 o'clock a.m., they immediately turn into massive, echoing concrete tombs. The guy filming this is just doing his standard, solitary patrol through the dark plaza when the dead silence is suddenly shattered by something that completely freezes him in his tracks. He hears a distinct, terrifying scream echoing from somewhere deep inside the empty building.
Buenas noches, la plaza ya se cerró. ¿Hay alguien aquí? Buenas noches. Ya se cerró la plaza, joven. Buenas noches. Buenas noches, ya se cerró. ¿Hay algún niño aquí? Buenas noches.
The worst part about a sound like that in a massive commercial space is the acoustics. The scream bounces off the closed metal security gates and tile floors, creating a distorted echo that makes it almost impossible to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. In paranormal theory, an isolated, disembodied scream of this magnitude is usually categorized as one of two things. It could be a residual haunting, an intensely traumatic or emotional event permanently stamped into the environment, replaying itself blindly like a broken record. Or, in a much more sinister scenario, it's an intelligent entity mimicking human distress. It knows the guard is the only living person in the building, and it is actively using a horrific sound to bait him off his normal route and draw him into the darkest corners of the store. When your literal job description is to investigate disturbances, a phantom scream is the ultimate nightmare, because eventually you have to go walk into the dark and see what's waiting for you. In this next video, we're looking at, or rather listening to, something that has genuinely terrified an entire neighborhood. The person recording is standing near a river in pitch black darkness, and they are capturing this audio in real time. According to the caption, this isn't just an isolated incident, it's actually the third time in 2 years that this strange, inexplicable singing has echoed across the water at night. Take a listen to what these residents are hearing out there in the dark.
Okay, so as you can see, it's pitch black out there, right? I live on a river, and there's no lights. So, there's a river in there, but like, it's pitch black. So just listen for a moment, okay? And tell me that you would not be fucking freaked out by this. What the fuck?
Hearing a disembodied song echoing over a body of water in the dead of night immediately brings up some very old, very dark folklore. Throughout history, legends from almost every culture warn about water spirits, mermaids, and sirens using beautiful, haunting melodies for one specific reason: to lure people off their path and into the depths. Most paranormal audio is just a quick, residual whisper, but singing requires breath, pitch, and intention. When an unseen entity projects a song across a dark river, it isn't just making random noise, it's actively performing, and more importantly, it is acting as bait. It wants you to step closer to the edge to see where the music is coming from. It's completely understandable why the people living near this river are so on edge, which leaves us with a very creepy question. What do you think makes that sound? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we see exactly why 3 a.m. is universally known in the paranormal community as the demonic hour. The guy in this footage is completely vulnerable, fast asleep on his living room couch. According to the caption, his wife had already been complaining about feeling a strange, heavy presence in the apartment, which is likely why this security camera was rolling in the first place. As you watch this, keep your eyes locked on the deep shadows in the background. Watch very closely. There are a few things about this footage that make it absolutely terrifying. First is the visual of that dark, dense mass physically emerging from the corner, but it's the intelligence of the movement that makes your stomach drop. The second the man stirs and briefly wakes up, the shadow instantly retreats back into hiding. It is actively observing him, waiting for him to be fully unconscious and defenseless. Then there is the audio. The entity doesn't just move, it lets out a deep, guttural growl. In paranormal research, a growling sound is almost always a massive red flag. Human spirits might whisper, cry, or cause objects to shift, but a growl is typically classified as something inhuman or demonic. It isn't just a restless soul wandering through their apartment, it is a predator. And knowing that it is just crouching in the dark, watching him sleep at 3:30 in the morning is enough to make you never want to close your eyes again. In this next clip, we explore a deeply unsettling and universal fear, being trapped in your bedroom while something unseen is waiting on the other side of your door. The girl filming this is completely alone in her apartment. She explicitly mentions in her caption that all the windows are securely closed, completely ruling out the possibility of a weird cross breeze or draft. But as she sits in her room, the door begins to violently rattle and shake. It isn't a subtle vibration. It moves exactly as if a physical person is standing out in the hallway, aggressively gripping the handle and trying to force their way inside. The physical manifestation is terrifying, but the most sinister detail here is the timing. The creator specifically notes that this door only ever starts acting up when her roommate leaves the house. In paranormal research, an entity that displays this kind of selective, targeted behavior is considered incredibly dangerous because it shows predatory intelligence. Spirits that engage in isolation tactics aren't just mindlessly haunting a space. By intentionally waiting until she is completely alone, the entity achieves two dark goals. It guarantees there are no other witnesses to validate her experience, making her question her own sanity, and it maximizes her vulnerability. Entities like this are parasitic. They use isolation to break down your psychological defenses so they can feed off your concentrated, unfiltered panic. When whatever is living in your house starts intentionally separating you from the herd, it isn't just a haunting anymore, and it is definitely time to break the lease. What would you do if you were in her shoes? In this next clip, we look at exactly why finding certain objects hidden away in an old house should be your immediate cue to leave. The guy filming this is completely alone at his grandparents' house. Well, alone except for his dog. He starts recording because he made a very unsettling discovery, an old Ouija board stashed away upstairs. Almost immediately after he finds it, the energy in the house completely shifts. He starts hearing bizarre sounds, and a cup inexplicably knocks itself over. In the paranormal community, an abandoned Ouija board isn't just a dusty piece of cardboard. It is widely considered to be an open door. If a session wasn't closed properly years ago, the theory is that whatever was invited in never actually left. It just went dormant, waiting for someone to acknowledge it again. As the activity ramps up, pay very close attention to his and his dog's reaction.
Mi gente, buenas noches. Estoy en casa de mis abuelos. En la parte de arriba encontré una ouija, no sé de quién sea. Por eso quería grabar, mi gente. Ustedes están viendo todo. No, hey, ¿quién está aquí? No mames, están arrancando los vasos y la puerta. Por favor, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino, hágase su voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día, perdona nuestras ofensas. No mames, güey, vete a la verga. No mames, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino, hágase su voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día y perdona nuestras ofensas. No. Perdona nuestras ofensas como tal. No mames, no. Vete a la verga, porque el control.
There are few things scarier than a dog aggressively barking at an empty room. Animals possess a sensory range that human beings simply don't have. When a dog locks its attention on the top of a dark staircase and goes into guard mode, it isn't barking at nothing. It is barking because something is standing right there, looking back down at them. But the absolute breaking point is when that ball bounces down the stairs. It comes directly from the second floor, the exact same place where he just found the Ouija board. It's a classic, terrifying display of a spirit mocking the living. The sheer, unfiltered panic in his voice as he starts frantically praying the Our Father is completely visceral. He realizes in real time that whatever was left attached to that board is now walking down the stairs to introduce itself.